the point that I was trying to make is that because of that struggle that went on with the religion and with everything else, and the faith was made stronger. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The faith of just natural faith and faith within the religion was made stronger with the slaves, yeah? But over that time, that faith has been held on dear. Do you get what I'm saying? It's been held on dear by black people because historically, that faith has brought black people through a lot of things over history. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now when we're talking about religion and all that stuff there's going to be an element of more possessiveness in a reverse psychology way as well, more possessiveness over that religion, and there's going to be more defensive activity when you're talking about that religion. Does that make sense?
I hear you. Okay. No, it makes sense. I want to bring up a few points. Firstly, I think it's very dangerous to, and not to say this is what you're saying, but talk about African faith as if it emerged from that place of European intervention. As you mentioned before, right. Mm-hmm. Africans had our own religions, our own faith for hundreds and thousands of years before we ever knew of Europeans. And when you look at a lot of so I'm from the Caribbean, right? A lot of slaves that one of the reasons that the numbers of slaves that actually was taken from the shores of Africa is so disputed, because no one was really keeping track, but also because many of them committed suicide. Mm-hmm. Many Igbo slaves from what is now Nigeria commit suicide because their faith, their spirituality, they believed that if they commit suicide they would end up back home. So a lot of those faiths existed, like a lot of the faith that our people had was from Africa. It wasn't from Europe. And also, like, yes, there was, in terms of the mass, like, kind of ness of Christianity entering Africa, yes, it was from Europeans, but Africans were travelling and were interacting. If you read the Bible, there are Africans that were in contact with Jesus, that brought Christianity to Africa as well. When you talk the Ethiopian eunuch that came into contact with Paul in the New Testament, these are African people, and when the term Ethiopian now refers to Ethiopia, the country, but Ethiopia used to describe Africa, and Ethiopia actually means the land of the burnt face. This is black people that were interacting with Jesus and who were thinking. We are the biggest scholars of today. It's from Africa. Like, this is where knowledge and wisdom and maths and literature and language and reading and words come from. This comes from our country. This comes from our home land. And so I think, firstly, like, it's important to recognise that. Like, Jonas Mbiti, he's a African scholar, and he says that the African is inherently spiritual. So, like, you can find black people all across the world that inherently, like, there's this spirituality about us, whether you're Christian, Muslim, or just spiritual. You just believe in something. Do you know what I mean? So I think
that's what I'm saying. I think there is inbuilt within us.
100%.
So when you're attached to a religion, that's what I'm saying. So now in this day and age where you've got black people, like, first and foremost, I'm going to start being specific with religions now. Let's start off with Christianity. Not specifically targeting them, but let's start off with them first. When I was growing up, the first thing that stopped me was, let me not lie, why there's so many different churches. First of all, it was the whole Catholic, and then there's also, and then I deeped that's only for the white people. The black people themselves have their own Netflix category of different churches. It's true. Or our Holy Mary, this one, and then there's the more typical ones, RCCG, Mount Zion, Barman, this one, and I'm just thinking, so wait, why is there so many? Like, I don't understand.
Christ Mary.
Just like, yes. Now, obviously, we can cut into all the different angles when it comes to the black churches. We can start talking about the pastors first, and talk about how black pastors, well, let's be honest, the man don't trust them.
That's not fair, man.
That's not fair. Before you get,
I didn't finish saying.
Before you want to,
so I'll be quick, bro. Like, so I don't really go to church anymore, but I grew up in church, and I grew up in a very loving church of black people who, it was like a family, and a lot of people can relate to that experience more than would probably like to admit. But I feel like, especially those, a lot of these kind of Caribbean churches, Like when the Windrush generation came here, white people didn't want them in their churches, so they had to start their own churches, and they started their own communities, and they did amazing things. And so I think it's important to also recognise some of the great things that religion has done, because I think in a very secularised society, people like to stigmatise as religion as being all sorts of horrible things, but there are amazing things that religion has done, and organised religion has done for humanity in general, but also for like building up black people and black community and celebrating black rights. So I think that's very important.
Just as Simmons is doing, I'm not disputing that.
Right.
I feel like it's also doing the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's down to the choices of the leaders, though. That's not down to the choice of religion itself. And also, what I was going to say to
So why are they leaders then?
Because anyone can
Anyone People are following Trump.
So what's
anyone can appoint themselves as a leader.
Then that label is then null and void. Then if anyone can be a leader, what's the purpose?
No, there's more to being a leader than just.
Why?
Trump is a president. He's a complete idiot. Anybody can be a leader.
Yeah, but understand. He's the president, but understand that people support him. There are supporters.
That doesn't mean he's a good leader, though.
I know, but understand that there are people that are following him.
Right.
A reason.
In the same way that there are people following
to the point where
Mookie Parsons.
understand, to the point where he's now the president, which
Right.
means he can make changes in the country that he's the president.
So are you telling me there's a fundamental problem with America? Are you telling me America as a whole is bad because Trump is the president?
Yes, because they made him president.
Wow.
Yes. Before he gets
I actually need to intervene because of the time. First, but secondly, okay. I think that we're kind of straying a little bit. We're just
Man said Trump.
Firstly, yeah, I feel like end of the day we could probably argue this to the cows come home, but I feel like the best way to argue it and argue it very diplomatically is to actually look at actual things that have destroyed us via religion and actual things that have helped us via religion. And so the way I want to probably like try and break that down is, since you two of it, well, this it seems like it's almost like a side thing, but if you can name 3 things that it has, I suppose this like negatively affected us, to get a good understanding of how, like on a good scale, if it's
You mean like things that have stopped people from progressing?
As a result.
yeah, because basically the question is it progressive or is it destructive?
And
Okay,
is it to the black community?
Within the black community,
Just for the black.
specifically.
Okay,
black
I would say after slavery, people were free. I feel there's a mentality that was left behind, and it's like a dependency. And I feel like people feel that they're always going to be taken care of by whatever the person in charge says. Like for instance, like he said, I have nothing wrong.
Sorry, what person in charge?
Well, we're talking about church, right?
Religion. Okay, within the black community, let's be honest.
Within
Christianity or
I can only speak about my experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
yeah.
in relation to what he said, one of the things I do believe is beneficial is offering.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain why, and then
Please do.
I'll make my point. So, offering is like taxes, in the sense of, the Bible actually clearly says, pay to Rome what is Rome's, pay to God what is God. So the same things you give to the church so that they can go on, they're meant to go out and do community stuff. They're meant to go out and help feed the poor, do all that kind of stuff. Now, if they ain't doing that, where's the money going? That's the problem. Okay?
Yeah.
But
it's true.
But
to say,
on the other hand,
yeah.
it's one of those ones where I also feel that people are giving blindly sometimes because the preacher keeps saying, oh, if you do this,
Then you'll get this.
Yeah.
da, 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 da. And I feel like sometimes, okay, there's times that has faith and it's time to use your common sense. And I feel like if you have the money
To give.
then give. Because you've been blessed enough that you have the capacity to give. But if you can't, if you're this close to not being able to pay your light bill, common sense will tell you, pay your light bill and pray you get more money to give next time.
But it's not
But a lot of people don't have that kind
I
of...
think there's a thin line between it, because it's like going off what you said. It's like you can, because I've been in churches where they play on that emotion, and because you already trust that preacher, do you get what I mean, or that pastor.
But it's not about the man.
But it kind of is for a lot of these churches.
It shouldn't be.
No, yeah, it shouldn't be. That's the thing.
Okay,
it shouldn't
cool.
be, because I've been to a lot of churches where they treat the pastor or the preacher
Like
as
God.
God,
As God.
and that's wrong, because he's the same as, well.
He is the same.
He is the
You know what I mean? Like,
But then because of that trust, because they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, like, I've been with this church
Almost
for
guilt
so
trip
long
you
time.
to do it.
Yeah, and if they play on those emotional strings, that do you
Yeah.
know what? If you give 200, yeah, you're gonna get
Yeah,
grand.
but this is the thing though. But if you go to church, yeah, do you just give willy-nilly? Because in the Bible, it's
It's
just
not
not
that. It's not just that. That's what it's about the mentality, the
okay, but this is
psychology
what
behind it.
But in the Bible, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know where it says it, but it says 10%.
Yeah, it does.
So if with
To
me,
tithe,
yeah,
yeah.
with me, I tithe in it because, and I don't, I will not give more than 10%.
Yeah.
Because that's just what I'm
Like that.
And I'll tell you why I do it as well, because there's been situations in my life, which it all comes down to faith, I know that because I've given, I've got back. I've also got back. If you give, you receive, right?
Yeah.
And I follow that principle, but I will never. If the pastor says, give me a bag, that it doesn't make any sense.
No, but
I'm not about that.
if the pastor is out here preaching and he's preaching a good service and all that stuff there, and he's connected with his congregation and he's talking about, but you never split your portion with God. You always have to give your portion with God because the amount of that you give to God, God will multiply. That bit there, hold on, that bit there is important. When you say the amount you give, God will multiply. That there leaves it open.
But that's biblical.
I know. But when we're talking about, that's what I'm talking about. When we're talking about religious leaders and what they are, that's what they do. They're going to effectively, because you've got a responsibility.
Okay,
I think it's about
It's actually about dependency, though.
Can I just ask one question?
Cool. Let Pierce talk.
Cool.
Then Paula.
Then
Kieran.
So with this, right? Let's assume there's two parts to give it, right? If you get God does said if you put down money, if you give, then He'll multiply and give it back to you, right? That's one side of it. That's the faith aspect, that He will take it and He will supply. Cool. Done. The other side is that when the Bible says about taking tithes into the storehouse, etc., what its actual purpose is so that God can use that money to bless somebody else. Right, cool. So looking at that side of the argument about what it's meant to do, if it's done correctly, does anybody around this table disagree that does anybody think that that's not a good thing?
It's a good principle.
No. Everyone think that's right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So helping people in need is good.
Yeah, but then when man comes into it, that's what becomes right.
Forget you, because I feel like again we're getting off topic. The thing is, it's very evident what we all believe religion is supposed to do. But we have to look at what it is actively.
No, but you can't.
But that's what I'm saying.
The thing is, I understand like what it's supposed to do. At the end of the day, I'm supposed to go outside and get £1,000 a day and all this kind of thing. I'm supposed to love my neighbour.
You're saying the church has never helped the poor.
Okay,
because that's
I'm not saying it has never helped, but in terms of our situation right now, what?
Wait, but are you looking at positive examples? I was in church.
You're saying we're going to look at positives and negatives.
I'm saying I have seen positives. I've seen how that can change
so
people's lives.
basically what I'm saying is that actively talk about examples that you've seen, positive or negative. The discussion about what it's supposed to do, to be honest, I kind of feel like it's quite irrelevant, because at the end of the day, we have to deal with what is in front of us today rather than going by what it's supposed to do, this, that and the other.
Okay, cool. So for example, this is what tithes actually need to do, For example, this is an example of when it is done right, isn't it? So I know someone whose husband passed away in my church, and she wasn't working, she was studying at the time. The church paid her rent for a good few months and supplied for food for her and her children. Would the church be able to do that if they didn't have money in the storehouse? No. They couldn't do it. Do you get what I mean? And I'm not trying to say there's examples where the pastor hasn't chopped out the pot, because that happens a hell of a lot, especially with our Nigerian pastors. They chop like willy-nilly in it, but when it is done right, it is good. So in that case, when tithes are done like Christianity, in the Christian household, it helps. It's done a lot.
Cool. 2 minutes. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. One more point, we're talking about like within the church. What about outside the church? Let's say you're talking about how maybe it affects our education, our jobs, our progression economically. The thing is, how can I put this? The reason I want to say this is because as much as we can try and separate the two, I personally strongly believe that whether it's kind of like the topic of does the chicken come before the egg or the egg come before the chicken, whether or not it's a result or it's a cause, it's a bit debatable. But I feel like you want to say something.
I'm sorry, bro. Like, I just want to say in regards to we were talking about race, but like I want to bring gender a little bit as well. I think in regards to sex and sexuality, I think religion has not been successful. Largely, mainstream religion has not been successful in helping people understand sexuality, and that sexuality and diverse sexuality is okay. And especially, I think, in regards to like notions of virginity, in regards to women, I think Christianity and religion, and loads of religions actually, have very much stigmatized women historically and present day for exploring their sexuality in a way that isn't done to men. And I think from that point of view, I think religion has been quite problematic for certain women in and that's not to say like everyone has to be that's not to say like abstinence and things like that aren't great, because if that works for you then that's fine. But I don't think everybody has to be like that, and I think religion has stigmatized a lot of those women.
Just following on from that really quickly, I think that also. Sorry. This is really quick.
And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, this is really quick. I just want to follow on and just say that, in general, I think all religions have unanswered questions that everyone wants to find the answer to, but when you go to find the answer, everyone just tells you, oh, just pray about it, just do this, do that. And that leaves it, you're open to interpretation, because what I get from praying to God may not be what you get from praying to God. So I think that, like, the unanswered questions about how we live right now, because even though technically reading the Bible, you should be able to find a story that you can identify with, but I think that it is hard to see that in this day and age, because there is a lot going on, a lot happening in terms of
period as well.
literally in terms of sex, race, religion, everything, and what we've been through. So yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna reach out hard to rebuttal what you said, and well, actually agree with what you said, but ask questions. You were talking about what people get from when they speak to God, kind of thing. And I feel like my issue that I've had growing up is the lack of willingness to explain people's beliefs. I feel like people who are, especially pastors and bishops and prophets, and especially in the Christian, I can't speak about mosques, but in the Christian church, they when you go and ask them a question that might be uncomfortable, it's always go and pray, go and pray, go. And I'm like, okay, I prayed, and God told me to come ask you, right? Like, answer my question. Because I had to go to my dad one time. I was like, listen, what about the pirate brother that don't know about? He's like one of those mafia dons that steals from the rich, gives to the poor on some island in Jamaica, looks after them, builds houses, everything. Does he go to hell? Because you never heard about Christ. So what about him? Silence. Okay, cool. So I'm like, so does he go hell, yes or no?
But sometimes it's good to explore for yourself.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But sometimes when you go to a preacher and they're like, oh, just pray about it. I'm like, okay, I'll pray about it, but what's your opinion? And some people, sometimes, in this, especially in the world where everyone's videoing, everyone's writing about people, that people are scared to have an opinion. I feel like people that don't have an opinion are dangerous because they will spit whatever they want to say, and they have no foundation at all. And I feel that's something that has made a lot of people turn away from the church. Is that people they claim to be something, but they don't stand by what they claim to be, and that is what causes a lot of people to fall off. In terms of what you were saying about
sex, sexuality.
Yeah,
I have to agree with that. Sorry, but yeah, continue.
And in terms of sexuality, again, especially for the example I gave previously, it's not talked about. Like, it's one of those ones where
when it is spoken about in this particular
and I really sometimes I get pissed with the Bible, because the Bible, it says laid with, laid down with, they beat, like, just say it. Because I thought the freedom to say they had sex is actually way more like relatable than just saying he laid with and then begot. No, they had sex and had a kid.
You're not going to say the words in the Bible's not going to say that.
But I feel like there should be
like, even at that time,
relatable.
It was a taboo to talk about sex. It's still a taboo to talk about sex.
And I don't think that's healthy.
It's not healthy.
When it comes to sexuality, you need to be able to tell people, like, the urge that you have is natural. Here's how you control it and deal with it in a way that your spirit is clean, but you can still be with a woman and be totally fine. But if you just say, oh, it's evil, people live their whole life being single, and they wonder why Christian girls are the only girls
then-
because I can't find a man.
And then
Because it's
people
like,
in church have babies, and
Thank
then
you.
they're
And that was
off bring
the
the
cycle,
worship
thank
team,
you.
and like it's a big thing.
That-
Like,
that's the back of the church.
what the hell? My dad's got removed from the praise and worship team.
Okay. You taught what sexuality is, and that's why people were growing up confused, and then whatever they hear outside,
Yeah.
they just think there's a latch onto, and it becomes a part of them. And now you're showing them, oh, why is it rampant? Because you ain't opening your mouth.
No, I'm more concerned about the person walking away from this team. Is that just a real story?
This is a real story. This happens in their church. No, you
That's
can
my church.
Yeah.
What's it embarrassing.
And then you said, one week to be on the stand. So 1 million.
We have to wrap it up firstly. Just to conclude, who is for religion? If you could put your hands up.
Oh, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Wait, can I say something? I think when you're younger, yes. When you're younger,
when you're younger.
It
and
works,
like,
yeah.
it works. Yeah.
I think
It's a
we need
good,
to
it's a
decide.
good, it's a good
It
foundation
needs to
for
be
your life.
overall.
Okay, define religion, because that's a hard one.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking about the lifestyle, we're talking about the politics.
Yeah, so obviously we're not even going to be able to conclude it.
Next
So I
episode,
think,
bro.
and can we have a round of applause for all of us?
Alright, people get their news from teams. That's that.